Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Chief Gen X again. Um, one of my sea stories I tell, you can't tell really a good sea story unless you tell one about the people that you toted around. See, served a long time on amphibious ships, which means that I had to deal with Marine Corps. They come on board the ships, we take them to we're basically they're overpriced, overworked Ubers. Um, we pick them up from either Hawaii, San Diego, areas like that. On the East Coast, got places they pick them up in Florida and whatever else, and places like that is there as well. You pick them up, you take them over to the Gulf or wherever the conflict may be. You drop them off, and we go park out in the middle of the ocean and cut circles in the water. Pretty much what we do. Sometimes we get in the way other places too, but for the most part, when you're dealing with the Marines, you're basically chugging them along, taking them over there, taking them back. Now, when you add that, for us, for the law enforcement side, we get what we call a Marine Corps detachment. It's about 5 to 7, sometimes 8 or 9 people, Marines, come over and work with us at the Master Arms Office, and their detachment, basically, they're there to help us out, since there's about 3,000 or anywhere from 1,200 to 2,200 Marines running around on your ship, which is sometimes twice as many sailors as we got. They bring over some people. Now, while we're chugging across the ocean, trying to get these guys to their places, there's some opportunities we have. We stop off Liberty ports. Now, saying that, we also have what we call these Liberty risk briefings. We have a brief about what you're supposed to do and what you ain't supposed to do in Liberty, where you're supposed to go, where you're not supposed to go in Liberty. This is normally has stated very loudly, very clearly to the Marines, to the young Marines, what they can and can't do, what they're expected to do, what they're not expected to do, this, that, and the other. Now, I will say, for the most part, 9.5 times out of 10, Marines are very good at doing what they're supposed to do, doing what the gunnies and the staff sergeants tell them to do, and you don't have a problem with them. But every once in a while, like I said, that half percentile, every once in a while, we get a good one. What I mean by a good one is we got somebody come back, young Marine, did something just not exactly up to snuff with Marine Corps honor, courage, commitment values. And sometimes it's not up to some sailors' core values either. Same core values, honor, courage, commitment. All right. I can remember one time, it was one of the funnier ones, where about 3 young Marines decided they went out, and we're having a good time, sightseeing, and seeing the sights, and we were in these places, and I think we're in one of the United UAE ports. Wasn't Yemen or anything like that. It was a place where you had to be especially careful. We got the lecture from here to Hayden back about behave yourselves, being careful, doing what you need to do and stay out of trouble. So we knew, this wasn't no playtime. This wasn't a port we'd go crazy in. We had to actually behave ourselves, and we were hoping the Marines would get that message too. And to be honest with you, for most part, they did. They got the message. They came back here nice, on time. They came back, out of trouble. But 3 young Marines decided that they were out they're sightseeing. They came back and they went, dropped off their stuff with their shopping, and this is as the story goes. They dropped off their stuff shopping, and they went out sightseeing. And hit a couple bars and seen how things, how the local nightlife was like. On the way back home, which was, they were coming back clearly within the time frame they were supposed to be home. When I say home, it was on the ship. They're supposed to be back to the ship. They were clearly good about being on time. No problems at all. They walked by the amusement park. It had set up to where you could ride an elephant, ride a camel, take rides on these exotic animals, that they had around in areas. Well, it was one of the young Marines that told me they were feeling quite cheapish and didn't want to pay the money to ride the animals when they were there during the daylight. And they decided on the way back to the ship, when they come back early, they decided they were going to try to see if they could get in there and ride them without having to pay. Well, to do this, you had to scale the wall to get into where the camels and the elephants had been kept. The wall was about 8 to 10 feet tall. Some of the parts of the wall were 12 foot high. The Marines were smart enough, well, they should say they were less intoxicated enough to realize that they needed to find the smallest part of the wall, the 8-foot portion of the wall, so they could scale that up, no problem. And that's what they did. The three of them scaled up the side of this 8-foot wall, jumped over the top, jumped into the facility there, and commenced to looking for the camels. They wanted to ride the camels. That was the ones they didn't want to pay for. They didn't want to pay for riding the camels. They wanted to ride the thing in there. And they figured it's just like a horse. What the hell, we go in there and ride it anyway. Not thinking that the camel is several feet taller than them, several hundred pounds heavier than them, and could probably kick them across the compound pretty easily. Never been kicked by a camel, never been near it, but I do know that when I stand up to them and I'm 6'3", they got a couple of heads on me. They look like they're at least 300 to 400 pounds heavier than me. I'm gonna weigh, about a slim trim 225 right about now. And if you're that much bigger than me, then I don't want to mess with you. I will wait till the handler deals with you. And they always had a handler with them. So, But these three individuals decided that they would try to buck the system and not pay. They were going to try to ride these things. And for some reason, that's what they tried to do. They were scooting around. They said they were running around, got over the top of the wall. They were running around looking for camels. And, of course, being inebriated, they decided they were making mistakes. They were tripping over things, stuff like this. I believe one of them even stepped into some fresh camel pie. Yeah, he smelled pretty when he came back to ship. He plopped his brand new tennis shoes into the big old fresh pie, a pile of camel dung. Camel dung. They were about, I want to say they were. And for some reason, they knew exactly what time they scaled the wall, and they knew exactly what time they came around and were looking for the camels. But they were pretty precise with the time frames, and I was impressed with that part. The part I wasn't impressed about was when they said they grabbed a camel that was laying down on the ground, and they were trying to get the camel to stand up. They got up on the humps, they sat on it like a horse, tried to get it to stand up, and it wouldn't stand up. And they didn't know why. Of course, they were too drunk to figure out the fact that the camels were tied down close enough where they had to lay down, so they couldn't get up and run away. Just the way they handled them over there, that's the way they did it. These dumb drunk bastards didn't realize that stuff because they were too drunk to see that the rope was already, they had a bridle. The camel still had a bridle on, and the bridle was tied down to an anchor, a concrete fixed anchor, where that camel was not going anywhere. But they tried their best to try to get her. The way they got caught was one of them, for some ungodly reason, took his belt off and thought it would be a nice crop for the camel. Popped the camel hollered. When the camel hollered, it woke up the guards. The circus guards, what do you call them? When they did that, within about 5 or 10 minutes, all three were placed into custody, taken over. The place where the rides were at were more than about 400 or 500 yards away from the piers where the ships were at. Now, this is where they really irritated them, their their chain of command. When they got caught, they were no more than 500 feet away from the piers, which means they're about maybe a half mile from the boxer. All they do is half a mile away. That ain't nothing but a freaking blink to them guys. They could walk up and stand on their heads. But they decided to get in there. They got caught, got taken into custody, brought over to the police department, which was 5 to 15 miles away from the ship. Okay, now they get toted away from the ship. They got a phone. Our shore patrol at the time got a phone call. Our shore patrol goes and gets them. They bring them back. Of course, the shore patrol also had Marines on there, so the Marines took care of the Marines, and we had an understanding the Marines take care of the Marines, and Navy take care of the Navy. Well, when they get to the ship and bring the Marines up, the Marines are like, "What do we do with them now?" Well, as they said, as guys on the quarterdeck said, we got to go through our master arms. That's when they woke up me and the sergeant that I had on duty. Well, the sergeant on duty was already awake. He was gonna pull the night shift. I was gonna pull the day shift. We made that agreement. No problem. Knew what he's doing. He had stuff squared away. He was an MP, so I wasn't worried about a thing. I just told him to wake me up if anything happens. I don't care if it's a green side or blue side. I need to know. He just roger that. On back there, go. Okay. 11:30, 23:30 for me. I get woken up. Pastor Robinson, some old Lance Corporal comes. They suckered some old poor Lance Corporal to go down there and wake me up. Apparently, I was grumpy. I don't know where to get that attitude from, that idea from, but apparently I was a grumpy old fart. So they woke me up. Pastor Robinson, we got a few of our Marines that got picked up. Your Marines? Because I was stunned. I was like, holy shit, the Marines, what the hell do they do? I was like, okay. What did they do? He said, you ain't gonna believe it. You gotta come up here and look at the paperwork. I said, oh, is it good? And he goes, oh, he started chuckling. He says, oh yeah, it's real good. And of course, he's talking real low because everybody else is either passed out or sleeping, So he's talking real low because he's in the berthing room at 11:30 at night. A lot of people are sleeping still, and people are coming in to go to sleep. So I was like, all right, I'll be right up, no problem. I get up there. Sergeant's got them all three against the bulkhead right outside the Master Arms office, and he's got them popping tall. He got them standing at attention, and he's barking like a good Marine. And he just ripping them up one downside, up one side, down the other, up one side, down the other. I mean, this man is just letting them have it. And I'm like, oh, this has got to be good. And this is one of those few times I was happy to be waking up for this. Okay. I get told, what happened? I'm still half awake. I haven't got any coffee in me. I was just like, excuse me? You wanted to ride a camel at 11:30 at night? And I just looked at the sergeant and I'm like, are they for real? And he was like, yes, but Officer Robinson, they are. I just kind of looked over at him like, you fucking high? It's just totally uncalled for, unprofessional. But I had to know. Are you guys fucking high? And they just kind of looked at each other. I asked a question, are any of you fuckers high? And they're like, no, petty officer. I said, obviously you're done with something, you dumb bastards. I said, so I had told him, I said, you do realize that now I have to wake up your staff sergeant. Sergeant pops up, I'll wake him up, petty officer. I said, no problem. Sergeant's going to wake up staff sergeant. Because I believe your gunny's still out on liberty. There's like, and they all went ghost white. I mean, they were like, oh no, I gotta wake up staff sergeant. One of them popped up, do you have to tell the gunny? Oh, hell yeah, I gotta tell the gunny. You think I'm not gonna tell? So I proceeded to tell him, I'm gonna tell the gunny. Chain of command, blah, 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 blah. I look around, and I'm facing towards the sergeant, and I'm facing away from the other three guys, and I'm like, I wink at him like this, and I lip syncing, this will be good. The sergeant cracks a smile. He nods. I said, Sergeant, go wake up staff sergeant. He needs to get up here. El pronto. Roger that, Master Professor Robinson. Sergeant goes and does his duty. Boom, he's gone. Right? He goes down there. He's checking them out. waking him up. He comes back up. And he goes, "Hey, Staff Sergeant said he'd be up here in a little bit. He's got to get a cup of coffee and a cigarette." I said, "Let the man do what he's got to do. I ain't got a problem with it. No worries. Roger that. I'll go let him down. I'll go back down and let him know." Okay, no problem. So, in the meantime, unbeknownst to anyone, their gunny comes back aboard. He's around another couple of the gunnies and some of the chiefs from the chief's mess and the mass sergeant. He's around his peers, right? Come back on board. Well, we have one of the Marines on the quarterdeck at the time. There's always designation, a person from the Marine side of the house up on the quarterdeck anytime. And so if anything happens, so I guess one of the guys in the crowd of gunnies and chiefs asked, "Is there anything happening today?" And the young Marine that was standing watch there said, "Well, yes, Gunny, there's this, that, and the other." And he told them about the three amigos who tried to ride the camels. The Gunny told me later on, he's laughed. He said, "Yeah, okay, right, whatever." And the guy said, "No, Gunny, it's no joke. That's what they're in the Master Arms office right now." And so the Gunny goes, "Oh shit." So, being a retired Navy chief, I know what that poor Gunny went through. He got through hell. He got harassed by one of his guys riding camels. All three of them are his. He was thinking maybe one or two. No, all three of them. Manny, Mo, and Jack were all his. So he's like, "Okay." He comes, takes a beeline to my office. I mean, he's coming to my office. He turns the corner, goes down the Master Arms office. I said, "Gunny's right." I said, "Can I help you?" Because he was in civics. So I said, "Can I help you?" He goes, he stops, he spins around, he goes, "You Petty Officer Robinson?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." I said, "And you are?" He goes, "I'm Gunnery Sergeant such and such." I said, "All right, Gunny." I said, "Something I can do for you." He goes, "These three jackasses." I'm like, "Yes?" And he goes, "They're mine." Okay. Sorry to hear that. Is there somewhere we need? I said, "We need to talk, Gunny." "Okay, where can we talk?" I opened up my Master Chief's office. I said, "We can talk in here." "Good." He looked at those three and he goes, "You fuckers move and I will kill you." And he's yelling at them and we're like, "Oh shit." And I'm thinking, "Oh, this is going to be a good way." Gunny and I talk. He asked me, he says, "Can you turn them over to me?" I said, "Technically, no, I cannot, because you've been outside and you've been off the ship and drinking and you're intoxicated. However, you're not intoxicated to the point where you don't know your bearings or anything else, but you do have the smell of alcohol on you. Therefore, I cannot and I will not let you have them." He goes, "Okay." I said, "But," I'd make sure before the Gunny I could see this brewing inside the Gunny. I said, "But I will tell you that your staff sergeant will be up here momentarily to come pick these three knuckleheads up." He goes, "Oh, these boys are going to wish I picked them up first. The staff sergeant worse than I am." He's like, "No problem." He goes, "Can I have a couple of minutes with them?" I said, "As long as they don't leave my passageway." He goes, "Is there any birthings around here?" I said, "They can't hear you, Gunny." I said, "Bullshit. Watch this." Oh, damn. He walks out, just rips them for a good 5-10 minutes, just up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I was just like, man, I thought the damn sergeant was bad. Gunny just ruthless, just laying them into him. He just called them everything but what they are. He was like, "You stupid sons of bitches, you dumb motherfuckers. What the fuck were you thinking? And who's the fucking genius decided to ride a camel when he's already tied to the damn trunk? You stupid motherfuckers know anything?" I'm in the office. I stay in the office. 2 reasons. 1, I'm laughing my ass off. 2, I don't want to be out there because I don't want to catch flack for being a wrong, innocent bystander. No, not happening. That time, and then he gets real quiet. He knocks on the door. I said, "Open the door." And he just says, "I'm done with these dumb motherfuckers. That sergeant is here. He's got them. I'm going to bed. Pastor Robinson, been nice knowing you." Stuck his hand out. He goes, We'll see each other tomorrow morning when I'm sober. I know my place. And you're right. I can't do anything with them because legally I can't touch them." And he glares at him. He goes, "Because we're not underway." And you could tell this Gunny has been underway a few times, knowing he knew the rules and regulations. He knew how to twist them. I was like, "Yep, you're right, Gunny." Off the bed he goes. And I said, I'll see you in the morning, Gunny. You hear that? Damn right you will. Oof. Staff Sergeant looks up and he goes, he goes, I said, Staff Sergeant, these three young men yours? He goes, you mean these dumb motherfuckers right here? I said, that would be them, yeah, these dumb motherfuckers right here. He goes, I said, my paperwork right here, the last names of these dumb motherfuckers. He goes, yeah, those dumb motherfuckers are mine. I was like, he goes, what do I gotta do to get them out of your hair here, Professor Robinson? I said, only thing you gotta do is sign this paperwork and we're good to go. He says, not a problem. I said, you know the routine, name, rank, social security number, blah, 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 blah. He goes, not a problem. He goes, I'll sign anything we got to do to get these three knuckleheads out of your hair, Professor Robinson. He goes, I am so sorry that these three individuals had to be a pain in your ass and take you up. And I heard today they had the Lance Corporal on duty had to come down and pick you and wake you up. I said, yes, they did. Staff Sergeant's like, well, I figured if they're going to wake up a first class, they sure the hell going to wake up Staff Sergeant. Well, and I deserve it. He goes, I have the three of the biggest idiots God ever fucking created for the Marine Corps. I'm like, ooh, these boys are getting it hardcore. And this is light compared to what I know these guys are going to get tomorrow morning when they're half awake. So I signed his paperwork. He looks at him. He looks at me and he whispers, do I have to take them? I cracked a smile and said, unfortunately, Staff Sergeant, you signed the paperwork. They're all yours. I ain't got to deal with them. Get them the fuck out of my face, please. He's like, fuck. You three, in your fucking face. Move it. Out the door they go. Down the hallway, and they're just steadily, yes, Staff Sergeant, yes, Staff Sergeant, yes, Staff Sergeant. You shut your fucking mouth. Don't you say another fucking word to me. And that's the last thing I heard out of Staff Sergeant's mouth. Don't you say another fucking word to me. Yeah, so Three Stooges and tried to ride my camel and ended up getting a nice little trip over to the Master Sergeant's office. And I think with the Marine Corps, if anybody you Marines in there, you know that the last thing you want to do is get turned over to your freaking point, your chain of command. Being on the blue side is a hell of a lot easier than being on the green side. But it was one of the few, and I will say one of the few times the Marine Corps, one of the Marines had anybody screw up. Normally, the Marine Corps puts the fear of God in every damn one of the Marines. Well, they don't, because a lot of times they'll hand pick them for the Muse for these projects going up underway with them. And these Marines, they got to be squared away. But we had a little fun that night, and the sergeant and I had a cup of coffee. After that, I went to bed, big old grin on my face, and I slept pretty damn good that night. I've got more stories like that, and they're out coming around. So you guys behave yourselves and have a blessed day and a blessed evening, whenever you're looking at this. And y'all remember, just have a good day. This is Chief Gen X, and I'm out.